General Sarah Chen stood in what used to be the heart of New Delhi. The city that once held 20 million people now sat silent under a gray sky. Radiation detectors on her suit beeped steadily, measuring the poison that soaked into every stone and beam. Behind her, a squad of soldiers in protective gear waited by their transport vehicle. They did not speak. There were no words for this. 6 months had passed since the Zarkeen came. 6 months since the sky filled with ships that blotted out the sun. 6 months since humanity learned it was not alone in the universe, and learned it in the worst possible way. Chen remembered that day with perfect clarity. She had been in Geneva, attending a boring conference about trade regulations, when the alarms started. Every screen in the building suddenly showed the same thing. Massive alien vessels appearing in orbit around Earth. Hundreds of them, each one larger than an aircraft carrier. They simply appeared, as if they had always been there. Their technology so far beyond humanity's understanding that they crossed space itself like it was nothing. The aliens broadcast a message in perfect English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, and a dozen other languages. Their translation technology was flawless. The message was simple. This world now belongs to the Zarkeen Dominion. You have one rotation of your planet to surrender all military forces and accept our governance. Resistance will be met with total destruction. Humanity asked for time to consider. The world leaders needed to meet, to discuss, to understand what was happening. They requested 48 hours. The Zarkeen response came 30 minutes later. A beam of light fell from the sky and erased Mexico City. 4 million people simply ceased to exist in an instant. Then came another message. You have the time we gave you. Not 1 second more. The governments of Earth scrambled. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Some wanted to fight. Some simply collapsed in despair. While politicians argued, the deadline ticked away. When Earth's rotation brought the deadline to its end, humanity had not yet given a formal answer. The Zarkeen began their attack. 23 cities died in the first day. The aliens targeted the largest population centers with surgical precision: New Delhi, Tokyo, Lagos, Sao Paulo, New York, Cairo, Shanghai, Los Angeles, Mumbai, Moscow, and more. Each one hit with weapons that turned matter into energy. The death toll climbed so fast that counting became meaningless. 4.2 billion people died in 72 hours. But something happened that the Zarkeen did not expect. Humanity did not surrender. Instead, something ancient and terrible woke up inside the human species. Every petty conflict, every old hatred, every national rivalry suddenly meant nothing. The fractured nations of Earth looked at their burning world and made a choice. They chose each other. They chose to stand together. They chose to fight. And humanity had been preparing for this day, though they did not know it would come so soon. For 60 years, Earth's space programs had been building. Mining operations on the Moon and Mars, research stations throughout the solar system, massive vessels that were officially listed as colony transports and industrial platforms. The public saw peaceful exploration. The military saw something else. A fleet, waiting to be activated. When the Zarkeen attacked, codes were transmitted across the solar system. The colony ships opened their hulls to reveal weapon systems. The mining stations activated drives that pushed them to speeds no civilian craft should reach. The research platforms deployed fighter wings that had been built in secret facilities on the far side of the Moon. Earth had been quietly preparing for hostile contact for decades. The governments had hoped they would never need these weapons. They had hoped first contact would be peaceful. They had been wrong. The battle for Earth lasted 6 weeks. The Zarkeen had superior technology, but humanity had numbers, desperation, and intimate knowledge of their own solar system. Human commanders used tactics the aliens had never seen. Ships pretended to be destroyed, then activated again to strike from unexpected angles. Fighters hid in the debris fields and asteroid belts. Weapons that seemed primitive by galactic standards were used in ways the Zarkeen could not predict. The human fleet could not win, but they did not need to win. They just needed to hurt the enemy badly enough that the cost became too high. After 6 weeks of brutal fighting, with half their fleet destroyed and supplies running low across hostile space, the Zarkeen retreated. They jumped back into whatever dimension they used for faster-than-light travel and left Earth behind. But the damage was done. A third of humanity lay dead. The survivors inherited a wounded world. Chen stepped over a pile of rubble that might have once been someone's home. Her boots crunched on glass that had melted and reformed into strange shapes. She reached the memorial site her team had prepared. A flat area had been cleared, and on it stood a simple monument. A black stone wall with names carved into its surface. 4.2 billion names. The wall stretched for miles in every direction, and it was not yet complete. It would take years to carve all the names. She found the section she was looking for. Her hand reached out and traced the letters. Amanda Chen, age 14. Her daughter had been in Shanghai. When the beam fell, there had been no warning. No time to run. No chance to say goodbye. One moment, Amanda had been messaging her mother about a school project. The next moment, she was gone. Chen did not cry. She had no tears left. She had cried them all in the first weeks. Now, there was only purpose. A voice spoke behind her. "General, the transport is ready. The council is waiting." Chen turned to see Captain Rodriguez, her aide. The young man looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days. Sleep came hard when the sky had proven to be full of enemies. "Tell them I'm on my way," Chen said. The flight to Geneva took 2 hours. The city had survived the initial attack, though the nearby mountains were scarred by a near miss that had vaporized Lake Geneva. The water was slowly returning, fed by rivers and rain, but the ecosystem would take generations to recover. The Unified Earth Command had set up headquarters in the deep bunkers beneath the old United Nations building. The organization that had once struggled to get nations to agree on trade policy now commanded the combined military forces of an entire species. Necessity had accomplished what decades of diplomacy could not. Chen descended into the bunkers, passing through multiple security checkpoints. Armed guards stood at every junction. Humanity had learned that the universe was hostile. They would not be caught, unprepared, again. The council chamber was a large room with a circular table. Seated around it were representatives from every major nation and military force on Earth. The fragile unity that had formed during the invasion had been carefully maintained. Everyone understood that division, now, meant extinction. Chen took her place at the table. On the screen behind her, data scrolled past. Intelligence reports, intercepted communications, astronomical observations. For 6 months, every telescope and listening post had been pointed at the stars, searching for any sign of the enemy. They had found something. "Members of the Council," Chen began. "We have successfully decoded the Zarkeen communication protocols. Our computer scientists used the transmissions they made during the invasion as a baseline. It took 6 months, but we can now understand their language." She pressed a button, and the screen changed to show lines of translated text. "These are military dispatches from the Zarkeen fleet during their retreat. They confirm what we suspected. The attack on Earth was not a rogue military action. It came from the highest levels of their government. The Dominion High Council ordered the invasion. They believed we were a young species that could be easily conquered and absorbed into their empire." Though murmurs ran around the table, Chen continued, "More importantly, we have identified the specific council members who gave the authorization. There were 12 of them. Their names, positions, and last known locations are all in the database. We know who they are. We know where they live." A Russian general leaned forward. "What are you proposing, General Chen?" Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. "I am proposing Operation Reckoning. We have the fleet. We have the technology we captured from destroyed Zarkeen ships. We have reverse-engineered their faster-than-light drives. We can now travel to the stars." She paused. "I propose we hunt down every single council member who ordered the death of our people. I propose we bring them to justice for what they did to Earth." The chamber erupted. Some voices called out in agreement. Others raised concerns. The debate raged for hours. Some argued that humanity should focus on rebuilding, not revenge. Others pointed out that if Earth did not respond with strength, they would be seen as weak, and other species might attack them in the future. The Chinese representative stood. "We must ask ourselves, what are we? Are we victims who hide and hope we are never hurt again? Or are we survivors who make sure no one ever dares to hurt us again?" The Indian delegate added, 4 billion of our people are dead. If we do nothing, their deaths mean nothing. If we act, we send a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity will not be destroyed. Attack us, and we will find you. There will be nowhere you can hide. The debate continued until the chairman called for a vote. Chen watched as each representative cast their decision. The tally appeared on the screen. The vote was unanimous. Operation Reckoning was authorized. Humanity was going to war. Chen stood before the council one last time. "Understand what we are committing to. This will not be quick. It will not be easy. The Zarkeen Dominion spans hundreds of worlds. They have allies and vassals throughout their region of space. We will be fighting on their territory, using technology we barely understand, against enemies we have never seen before." She looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. "But we will do this. For every child who died in Shanghai, for every parent who burned in Lagos, for every dreamer who looked at the stars and hoped for a better future, only to have that future stolen by beings who thought we were too weak to matter. We will show them what humanity becomes when you take everything from us and leave us with nothing but each other." The council members nodded. There was no joy in their faces, no eagerness for battle. They all knew the cost of war. They had seen it, written in the ashes of their cities. "How long will this take?" asked the Brazilian representative. Chen considered the question. "Years, maybe decades, but we will not stop. Every council member who authorized the attack will face justice. They will answer for what they did. This I promise you." She saluted the council and left the chamber. Outside, Captain Rodriguez waited with a datapad. "General, the fleet commanders are requesting your orders. When do we deploy?" Chen looked at the pad. It showed the positions of Earth's new warships. The vessels were ready. The crews were trained. The weapons were loaded. Humanity's answer to the invasion was prepared to launch. "Tell them we deploy in 72 hours. That's how long the Zarkeen gave us before they started killing. I want them to understand the symmetry." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We're going to teach the galaxy a lesson about humanity. They wanted to show us our place in the universe. Now we'll show them theirs." As Chen walked through the corridors of the command center, she passed walls covered with photographs. The faces of the dead stared back at her. Billions of faces, billions of stories, all cut short by beings who thought humans were insignificant. She stopped at a window that looked out over the surface. Geneva was rebuilding. Cranes dotted the skyline. People moved through the streets, going about their lives, refusing to give up despite everything. Humanity would heal. But first, humanity would hunt. The Zarkeen had invaded Earth, thinking they would find easy prey. They had awakened something they did not understand. Not a species of warriors, but something more dangerous. A species that would not accept defeat. A species that would chase its enemies across the galaxy, if that was what justice required. Chen placed her hand against the glass. Somewhere out in the stars, 12 beings were going about their lives, thinking they were safe. They were wrong. Humanity was coming for them. The stars looked different now. General Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching them through the forward viewport. They were not the familiar stars of Earth's night sky. These were the stars of the outer reaches, a region of space 50 light-years from home. The journey had taken 3 months, using the captured Zarkeen drive technology. 3 months to travel a distance that would have taken human ships thousands of years before the invasion. 14 months had passed since the Zarkeen attacked Earth. 8 months since humanity launched Operation Reckoning. In that time, the galaxy had learned that humans existed, and it had learned to be afraid. "Status report," Chen said. Commander Williams, her tactical officer, checked his displays. "We've deployed monitoring satellites throughout the system. No sign of Zarkeen military vessels. Station Prime is maintaining its neutrality claim, but our intelligence confirms that Counselor Vrextal is aboard." Chen studied the space station on the main screen. Station Prime was a massive structure, a wheel rotating slowly in the darkness. It was owned by the Hask Collective, a species of traders who claimed to remain neutral in all conflicts. They served anyone who could pay, asked no questions, and sheltered anyone who sought refuge. It made them very wealthy and very useful to those who had something to hide. "Hail the station," Chen ordered. A moment later, a Hask appeared on the screen. The alien looked like a cross between a turtle and a spider, with a hard shell and multiple limbs that moved independently. Its voice came through the translation software as a calm, businesslike tone. "This is Station Master Krell. Welcome to Station Prime, human vessel. We are surprised to see your kind this far from your home world. Do you require docking services? This is General Sarah Chen of the Unified Earth Command. We have credible intelligence that you are harboring Counselor Vrextal of the Zarkeen Dominion. He is wanted for war crimes against humanity. We demand his immediate surrender." The Hask's limbs rippled in what might have been laughter. "General Chen, Station Prime is neutral territory recognized by 17 major galactic powers. We do not involve ourselves in political disputes. Whatever grievances you have with your guests are not our concern." Chen had expected this response. She had prepared for it. "Station Master Krell, let me explain something to you about humanity. We are new to galactic politics. We don't yet understand all your rules and customs, but we do understand one thing very clearly: justice. Counselor Vrextal ordered the deaths of 4 billion humans, men, women, and children, who were no threat to him or his people. They died because he wanted to make an example of us." The Hask's tone remained calm. "Many species have grievances with each other, General. This is not unusual. What is unusual is your response. Typically, disputes are resolved through diplomatic channels, economic pressure, or limited military actions within accepted parameters. Your species has violated dozens of galactic conventions in your pursuit of these individuals." "Conventions we never agreed to," Chen replied. "Tell me, Station Master, do these galactic conventions include rules about exterminating billions of civilians without warning or cause?" The Hask was silent for a moment. "The Zarkeen action against your world was regrettable, but it is not unprecedented. Young species are often subjected to such demonstrations. It is how the balance of power is maintained." Chen felt her jaw tighten. This was what they had learned over the past 8 months. The galaxy operated on rules that humanity found repulsive. The strong dominated the weak. Young species were kept in their place through intimidation and occasional violence. War was conducted according to elaborate rules that protected the powerful and limited the damage to their interests. Humanity had no interest in following those rules. "Station Master Krell, I am giving you 6 hours to turn over Counselor Vrextal. If you refuse, we will take action." "General Chen, I must warn you that any attack on Station Prime will be considered an act of war against the Hask Collective and all 17 signatories to the Neutral Station Treaty. You would be making enemies of half the galaxy. Then I suggest you spend the next 6 hours deciding which concerns you more: your treaty, or what happens when you shelter those who commit genocide." Chen cut the transmission. Commander Williams looked nervous. General, if we attack the station, the political consequences could be severe. Earth needs allies, not enemies. Chen understood his concern. It was a concern shared by many in the Earth government. But she also understood something else. Respect was not given in this galaxy. It was taken. Commander, humanity has been in this galaxy for 8 months. In that time, what have we learned? Williams considered the question. That most species view war as a limited engagement. They fight for resources, territory, or political leverage. But they do it with rules. Casualties are minimized. Damage to infrastructure is avoided when possible. Wars end with negotiations, not total victory. Exactly, Chen said. They fight like chess players. Move and countermove, playing for advantage, always leaving room for the opponent to survive because they know they might face them again someday. They've been playing these games for thousands of years. She turned to face her bridge crew. But humanity doesn't play chess when someone murders our family. We don't follow rules written by people who think genocide is just a political tool. We want the galaxy to understand that attacking Earth comes with a price that cannot be negotiated away. The 6 hours passed slowly. Chen used the time to review the intelligence reports on Counselor Vrextal. He was a high-ranking member of the Zarkeen military leadership. His career spanned 300 years, which was not unusual for his species. They lived long lives and spent most of those lives expanding their empire. The report included his testimony during the Zarkeen High Council meeting, where the attack on Earth was authorized. The translation software had captured his words. The humans have advanced too quickly. Their technology grows exponentially. In another century, they may be a threat. Better to crush them now, while they are still weak. Make them a vassal state. Remind the younger species what happens when they reach too high. Reading those words, Chen felt the old anger rise up. 4 billion people had died because these beings saw humanity's potential and decided to crush it before it could bloom. At hour 5, Station Master Krell contacted her again. General Chen, the Hask Collective has consulted with our legal advisors. We maintain that Station Prime is neutral territory. However, in the interest of avoiding unnecessary conflict, we are willing to negotiate the transfer of Counselor Vrextal in exchange for appropriate compensation. We don't negotiate with those who shelter war criminals, Chen replied. You have 1 hour. The hour ticked away. Chen ordered her fleet into position. 5 warships surrounded Station Prime, weapons armed and targeting systems locked. At hour 6, Chen broadcast a message on all frequencies. Every ship in the system would hear it. Every station and settlement within range would receive it. She wanted the galaxy to hear what came next. This is General Sarah Chen of the Unified Earth Command. Station Prime has refused to surrender a wanted war criminal. They believe their neutrality protects them. They believe we will follow the rules that govern galactic conflicts. They are wrong. She nodded to Commander Williams. Fire. But the weapons that fired were not the massive ship-killer missiles the galaxy expected. Instead, a single precise beam lanced out from the Defiance. It struck Station Prime with surgical accuracy, cutting through the station's hull like a laser through paper. The beam carved a path directly to the section where Counselor Vrextal was hiding, guided by intelligence so accurate that it might as well have been magic. The section of the station simply ceased to exist. Atmosphere vented into space for a few seconds before emergency bulkheads sealed. The rest of Station Prime remained intact and functional. Not a single other section was damaged. No other casualties were inflicted. Boarding teams, move in, Chen ordered. Human soldiers in powered armor launched from the Defiance and crossed to Station Prime. They entered through the breach and found Counselor Vrextal floating in a small pocket of air, his personal shield generator keeping him alive in the vacuum. The soldiers grabbed him and brought him back to the ship. Chen's next broadcast went out across every communication channel humanity could access. Let it be known to all species. Earth is hunting those responsible for the invasion of our homeworld. We will follow them wherever they run. We will take them from wherever they hide. Neutrality is not a shield against justice. If you harbor them, you choose to stand with them. Choose wisely. The galactic response was immediate and shocked. Humanity had just violated a treaty that had stood for 2,000 years. They had attacked a neutral station. They had done so with a precision that terrified military analysts across the galaxy. The humans had cut out exactly what they wanted and left everything else untouched. That level of accuracy should not have been possible. What the galaxy did not know was that humanity had spent the past months hacking into every computer system they could access. Human programmers had proven to be exceptionally good at breaking alien security. The precision strike had been possible because humanity knew the exact layout of Station Prime, had access to its sensor data, and had calculated the trajectory to the millimeter. Counselor Vrextal was brought before Chen in the ship's brig. The Zarkeen was a tall being, reptilian in appearance, with dark scales and multiple eyes. Even captured and restrained, he radiated arrogance. "You have made a terrible mistake, human," he said through the translator. "The Dominion will not allow this insult to stand. Your world will burn again. Aver, you will see." Chen pulled up a chair and sat down across from him. "Counselor, let me explain your situation. You are going to answer questions. Every question. We have your communication records. We have your testimony before the High Council. We know what you said, what you did, and why you did it. But we want you to say it in your own words." "I will say nothing," Chen smiled. "You will. Because we're going to broadcast your interrogation across every communication channel in the galaxy. Every species will watch. Every government will see. You will tell them why you ordered the death of 4 billion humans. And when you're done, the galaxy will understand exactly what kind of beings sit on the Zarkeen High Council." Over the next 3 weeks, Chen's team questioned Vrextal. At first, he refused to speak. But humanity had studied Zarkeen psychology. They had learned what motivated them, what they feared, what they valued. Slowly, carefully, the interrogators broke down his resistance. The broadcasts went out daily. The galaxy watched as Vrextal described the High Council meeting. He explained how the attack on Earth had been planned as a demonstration. The Zarkeen had noticed humanity's rapid technological advancement and decided to act before humans became a peer competitor. They had chosen overwhelming force to ensure humanity would never consider resistance. "It was meant to be merciful," Vrextal said in one session. "We could have exterminated your entire species. Instead, we gave you the chance to surrender. When you refused, we disciplined you. This is how the strong guide the weak." "By murdering 4 billion innocents?" the interrogator asked. "By teaching a necessary lesson. Young species must learn their place." The broadcasts caused chaos across the galaxy. Public opinion turned sharply against the Zarkeen. Species that had suffered similar demonstrations began to speak out. The Dominion found itself isolated, its diplomatic standing crumbling. But more importantly, the other 11 council members who had authorized the attack realized that humanity was serious. They began to run. Intelligence reports came in from across the galaxy. Council member Thaxal had fled to the border territories. Council member Pringkor had sought asylum with the Velkor Empire. Council member Zirval had disappeared into the criminal underworld. Chen marked each location on her star map. The hunt was on. Before leaving the system, Chen made one final broadcast. To those who wonder why humanity pursues this course. We do not do this out of rage, though we have rage. We do not do this out of hatred, though we have cause for hatred. We do this because, if we don't, the galaxy will continue to operate by rules that allow genocide as a tool of policy. 4 billion humans died because beings like Vrextal saw us as a problem to be solved. We will not allow their deaths to be meaningless. Every council member who authorized the attack will face justice. This is not negotiable. This is not subject to galactic law or convention. This is humanity's promise to itself and to the universe. The Defiance and her sister ships jumped back into faster-than-light travel, heading for the next target. Behind them, the galaxy buzzed with conversation and speculation. A new power had emerged, and it played by different rules. The Helios Nexus was supposed to be humanity's grave. That was what the Zarkeen Dominion had planned. That was what their allies believed would happen. 4 fleets from 4 different species had gathered in this remote system, waiting for the human ships to arrive. They did not have to wait long. General Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, studying the tactical display. Her fleet consisted of 20 warships, humanity's entire deep space offensive capability. Facing them were 80 vessels representing the Zarkeen Dominion, the Vroth Confederation, the Keltak Swarm, and the Morian Hegemony, 4-to-1 odds. The galaxy expected humanity to turn back. All ships, battle stations, Chen ordered. Execute Formation Theta. 18 months had passed since the invasion of Earth. 1 year since Operation Reckoning began. In that time, humanity had captured 3 more council members and driven the remaining 8 deeper into hiding. The galaxy was learning that humans kept their promises, but the Dominion had finally decided to make a stand. They had called in old alliances and made new promises. 4 species had answered the call, bringing their fleets to stop the human advance. The propaganda broadcasts from the Dominion painted it as a defensive action, a coalition of civilized species standing against human aggression. Chen knew the truth was more complicated. The Vroth had territorial disputes with humanity's expanding sphere of influence. The Keltak were traditional allies of the Zarkeen. The Morians were opportunists who sensed a chance to curry favor with a major power. None of them had come because they believed in the Zarkeen cause. They had come because they believed humanity could be stopped with sufficient force. They were about to learn otherwise. General, receiving a transmission from the Allied fleet, Commander Williams reported. Audio only. Put it through. A voice spoke. Translated into English by the communication software. Chen recognized it as Zarkeen. Human Commander. This is Fleet Master Korval of the Zarkeen Dominion. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Your hunt ends here. Turn back now, and your ships will be allowed to leave. Continue forward, and we will destroy you. Chen considered her response carefully. She knew this conversation was being monitored by intelligence services across multiple species. Her words would be analyzed and debated for years to come. Fleet Master Korval, this is General Sarah Chen. I appreciate your offer, but I'm afraid we must decline. You see, somewhere in your fleet, or nearby, there are individuals we have come to collect. Council members who authorized the murder of 4 billion humans. We will not leave without them. Then, you will not leave at all, Korval replied. Your species has violated every principle of civilized warfare. You have attacked neutral stations. You have ignored diplomatic protocols. You have hunted members of a sovereign government across the galaxy. This ends today. You're right about one thing, Chen said. This does end today. But not the way you think. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All ships. Activate combat protocols. Authorization. Chen Delta. 7. Across the human fleet, something changed. The ships had been moving in standard formations, their weapons armed, but their systems operating within normal parameters. Now they shifted into something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity's secret weapon was not a new gun or a more powerful reactor. It was coordination. While other species had artificial intelligence that handled basic ship functions, they feared giving too much control to machines. Wars in their past had taught them that AI could not be trusted with weapons. Humanity had reached a different conclusion. Human military AI did not replace commanders. It enhanced them. Every ship in Chen's fleet was connected through a network that operated faster than thought. Tactical data flowed between vessels in microseconds. The AI coordinated movements, predicted enemy actions, and calculated firing solutions, while human commanders made the strategic decisions. The result was a fleet that moved like a single organism. Enemy fleet is advancing, Williams reported. They're maintaining standard engagement spacing. Chen watched the tactical display. The Allied fleet was moving in a formation that made sense according to centuries of galactic military doctrine. Each ship maintained distance from its neighbors to avoid collateral damage. Their weapon systems were optimized for long-range bombardment. They expected a traditional engagement, ships trading fire at maximum range, shields absorbing damage until one side's defense failed. Close to weapons range, Chen ordered. Maximum speed. The human fleet accelerated. The Allied commanders must have been confused. Standard doctrine called for maintaining distance, using range as a defensive measure. The humans were doing the opposite. Enemy fleet opening fire, Williams said. Multiple missile launches detected. Hundreds of projectiles crossed the distance between the fleets. The missiles were smart weapons, each one capable of tracking and adjusting its course. Against a normal fleet, they would have been devastating. The human ships began to dance. It was the only word that fit. The vessels moved in patterns that seemed impossible. They jinked and weaved through the incoming fire. Their movements perfectly coordinated. When a missile got too close to one ship, a neighboring vessel would fire point defense systems to destroy it. The entire fleet operated as if controlled by a single mind. Not a single missile found its target. The Allied fleet tried to adjust, launching more missiles, activating energy weapons. The human ships continued their advance, closing the distance at speeds that pushed their engines to the limit. Chen's tactical AI calculated trajectories, predicted enemy fire patterns, and adjusted course a dozen times per second. Entering optimal firing range, Williams announced. All ships, Alpha strike on my mark, Chen said. Target the Vroth vessels. 3, 2, 1. Mark. 20 human ships fired as one. Their weapons were not as powerful as the massive guns on Zarkeen battleships, but they did not need to be. The coordinated fire focused on a single point, overwhelming shields through sheer concentration of force. 3 Vroth ships exploded in rapid succession. The Allied fleet tried to scatter, to break formation and create distance. But the human ships pursued like wolves after prey. They split into smaller groups, each one moving with perfect coordination. One group would draw enemy fire while another attacked from an unexpected angle. They used the debris from destroyed ships as cover. They executed maneuvers that should have required minutes of calculation in the space of seconds. Fleet Master Corval must have realized what was happening. His ships began broadcasting on all frequencies, calling for the human fleet to honor the rules of engagement, to allow disabled ships to withdraw, to accept surrender when offered. Chen ignored the requests. This was not a fight for territory or resources. This was a message. General, Commander Williams said quietly, we're receiving distress signals from several enemy vessels. They're requesting mercy. Chen felt the weight of the decision. She was not a monster. She did not enjoy killing. But she also understood that mercy shown too early would be seen as weakness. Broadcast on all channels, she ordered. This is General Chen to the Allied fleet. We will accept the surrender of any vessel that powers down its weapons and transmits its crew manifest. You have 2 minutes to comply. Across the battlefield, Allied ships faced a choice. Continue fighting a battle they were clearly losing, or surrender to the humans everyone had believed they could defeat. 15 ships powered down their weapons. The rest continued fighting. The battle lasted another 40 minutes. When it was over, the Allied fleet had been broken. 53 ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels fled into faster-than-light travel, scattering in different directions. The human fleet had taken damage. 2 ships were severely hit and would need extensive repairs. But not a single vessel was lost. Chen ordered the fleet to secure the battlefield. The surrendered ships were boarded by human marines. Wounded aliens were given medical treatment. Prisoners were processed according to the military conventions that Earth had established. This was important. Chen wanted the galaxy to understand something crucial about humanity. When the first Vroth commander was brought aboard the Defiance, he seemed confused. His species was tall and insectoid, with multiple limbs and compound eyes. Through the translator, he spoke with a clicking voice. "I do not understand. Your kind fights with such ferocity. Why do you now show mercy?" Chen met his gaze. "Because we can tell the difference between those who make war and those who are forced to fight it. Your government made the choice to ally with the Zarkeen. You followed orders. We will treat you according to the same standards we would want if the situations were reversed." The Vroth commander's antennae twitched. But this is not how wars are fought. The strong dominate. The weak submit. Your kind should be taking what you want from us. "That's the old way," Chen said. "We're showing you a new way. Humanity fights with everything we have when we must. But we do not become monsters to defeat monsters. Remember that. Tell your people what you saw here today." Over the next 3 days, as the human fleet secured the system and tended to prisoners, Chen conducted interviews with the captured officers. She learned valuable information about the locations of the remaining council members, but more importantly, she sent a message through those prisoners that would spread across the galaxy. On the 4th day, Chen made a broadcast. It was transmitted on every frequency, aimed at every listening post within 100 light years. "This is General Sarah Chen of the Unified Earth Command. Today we fought and defeated a coalition fleet that outnumbered us 4-1. We did not seek this battle. We did not want this war. But when the Zarkeen Dominion chose to murder 4 billion humans, they set us on a path we cannot turn away from." She paused, letting the words sink in. "To those who fought against us today, we have treated your wounded. We have fed your prisoners. We will return them to your governments as soon as arrangements can be made. We do this not because you deserve mercy, but because this is who humanity chooses to be. We will not become the monsters who attacked our world." Another pause. To the Zarkeen Council members who still hide. "We are coming. Every ally you call will fail you. Every fortress you hide behind will fall. Every day you run is just another day until we find you. You wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Thank you for the lesson. Now we'll teach you yours." Chen cut the transmission. Commander Williams approached her, holding a datapad. "General, we've decoded the enemy fleet communications. 3 council members were supposed to be present at this battle, observing from a command ship. They fled when they saw we were winning. Our long-range sensors tracked their vessels. We know where they went." Chen looked at the data. The 3 council members had fled to Kraz Thor, the fortress world of the Zarkeen Dominion. It was the most heavily defended planet in their territory, surrounded by orbital weapons platforms and protected by thousands of ships. It was where the Dominion kept its most precious assets. It was where the remaining council members would gather, believing the defenses made them untouchable. Chen smiled. "Plot a course for Kraz Thor. It's time to end this." The news of the battle at Helios Nexus spread across the galaxy like a wave. Military analysts studied the recordings, trying to understand how a smaller fleet had achieved such a decisive victory. They saw the coordination, the precision, the way human ships moved as if controlled by a single mind. It was unprecedented. It was terrifying. Governments that had been considering open opposition to humanity's hunt suddenly reconsidered. If the humans could defeat a 4-1 numerical advantage, what could they do to a single species that made itself their enemy? The galactic discourse shifted. Some species began to argue that perhaps the Zarkeen had gone too far. Perhaps attacking a homeworld without provocation was indeed a crime that warranted punishment. Perhaps these humans, for all their ferocity, had a point. But the Zarkeen Dominion was not ready to accept defeat. They issued a statement claiming that Kraz Thor was impregnable. They dared humanity to attack it. They promised that any human ship that approached the system would be destroyed. Chen read the statement and issued a simple response. We accept your challenge. See you soon. The human fleet began its journey to Krozthor. It would take 6 weeks to reach the system, at maximum faster than light speed. 6 weeks for humanity to prepare. 6 weeks for the Dominion to ready its defenses. 6 weeks until the galaxy would learn what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. Chen spent those weeks reviewing every piece of intelligence on Krozthor. The planet's defenses, its garrison, its supplies, the psychology of its defenders. She studied everything, looking for the weakness that every fortress possessed, and slowly, a plan formed in her mind. A plan that did not rely on superior weapons or overwhelming force. A plan that relied on the one thing humanity understood better than any species in the galaxy: the power of truth. Krozthor hung in space like a dark jewel. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet in 3 concentric rings, each one bristling with weapons capable of destroying capital ships. The surface was covered with bunkers, command centers, and garrison facilities housing 2 million Zarkeen soldiers. It had never been conquered. In 3,000 years of Dominion history, no enemy had ever breached Krozthor's defenses. General Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the fortress world on her display. 22 months had passed since the invasion of Earth. 14 months since Operation Reckoning began. 7 council members had been captured. 3 more had died resisting arrest. The final 2 were on Krozthor, hiding behind the most powerful military installation in this region of the galaxy. All ships, establish blockade positions, Chen ordered. Activate jamming systems. The human fleet spread out around the system, creating a sphere of coverage that ensured nothing could leave without detection. Communication jammers activated, cutting Krozthor off from the rest of the galaxy. No messages would get in or out unless humanity allowed it. For 3 days, nothing happened. The Zarkeen watched from their fortress, expecting an attack that never came. They sent probing attacks with fighters and missiles, testing the human defenses. Each time, the attacks were repelled with minimal effort. The humans were not there to fight. Not yet. On the 4th day, Chen sent a message to Krozthor. It was broadcast on all frequencies, aimed at every receiver on the planet and orbital stations. People of Krozthor, this is General Sarah Chen of the Unified Earth Command. We have come for 2 individuals, Council Member Thexnar and Council Member Vril OK. These beings authorized an unprovoked attack on Earth that resulted in the deaths of 4 billion humans. We are here to bring them to justice. The message continued. We do not wish to harm you. We do not wish to destroy your world. We only want the 2 individuals responsible. Surrender them to us, and this ends peacefully. Refuse, and we will take them by force. The response from the Dominion was predictable. Military Governor Zelmak, the commanding officer of Krozthor, sent a reply dripping with contempt. Human General, your threats are meaningless. Krozthor has stood for 3 millennia. Your small fleet cannot breach our defenses. You have achieved some victories against lesser opponents, but now you face the full might of the Dominion. Leave now, or be destroyed. Chen had expected this response. She sent another message, but this one was different. This one included video. The broadcast showed Earth. Not Earth as it was before the invasion, but Earth as it existed now. The footage was carefully curated to show maximum impact. Ruined cities, their buildings melted by orbital bombardment. Mass graves being excavated. Row after row of bodies. Hospitals overflowing with radiation victims. Children orphaned by the attack. Their eyes empty of hope. The narration was simple. This is what Council Member Thexnar authorized. This is what Council Member Vril OK approved. 4 billion people who had done nothing to threaten the Dominion. 4 billion lives ended because your leaders wanted to teach a lesson to a young species. The broadcast went out every day for a week. Different footage, different stories, but the same message. This is what your leaders did. This is who you are protecting. The Zarkeen military tried to jam the broadcasts, but human technology had been specifically designed to counter their jamming. Every soldier, every civilian, every being on Kraz Thor saw the images of Earth's devastation. They heard the stories of families torn apart. They listened to the recorded testimony of Counselor Vrexatal, explaining in his own words how the attack had been planned. On day 12 of the siege, Chen broadcast Vrexatal's most damning statement. It was not about defense. It was not about resources. It was about making sure the younger species remembered their place. We chose Earth because they were advancing too quickly, becoming too confident. They needed to be reminded that the old powers still rule. The reaction on Kraz Thor was immediate. The military forces remained loyal, but questions began to spread among the civilian population. The Dominion had always portrayed itself as a civilizing force, bringing order to chaotic regions of space. But the footage from Earth showed something different. It showed cruelty without purpose, violence without justification. Chen continued the broadcast campaign. But she also sent a second message, this one specifically targeting the military garrison. Soldiers of Kraz Thor, we know you are following orders. We know you did not make the decision to attack Earth, but you now face a choice. Your leaders brought this war to our doorstep. They killed our families. And they did it, believing we would submit. We did not submit. We are here, and we will not leave until justice is served. She paused. We do not want to fight you, but we will if we must. Ask yourselves, is protecting 2 council members worth dying for? Is defending beings who ordered genocide a cause worth your lives? The psychological warfare continued. Every day brought new broadcasts. Survivors from Earth telling their stories. Footage of human rebuilding efforts, showing a species that refused to give up. Intercepted communications from the High Council, proving that the attack had been calculated and deliberate. On day 18, something changed. A message came from Kraz Thor, encrypted and sent on a narrow beam to avoid detection by Dominion security. This is Colonel Darnax of the Garrison Security Force. We have been listening to your broadcasts. Many of us have questions about the attack on your world. Can you guarantee safe passage for representatives who wish to meet with you? Chen felt a surge of hope. This was the moment she had been working toward. Colonel Darnax, you have my word as a commanding officer. Any representatives you send will be treated with respect and returned safely, regardless of what you decide. 3 days later, a small shuttle left Kraz Thor and approached the human fleet. Chen met the Zarkeen delegation in a conference room aboard the Defiance. There were 5 of them, all military officers of various ranks. They looked nervous. Colonel Darnax spoke first. General Chen, we come seeking truth. The broadcasts you have shown contradict what our government has told us. We need to understand what really happened. For the next 6 hours, Chen walked them through the entire timeline. The unprovoked appearance of the Zarkeen fleet, the demand for immediate surrender, the destruction of Mexico City as a demonstration, the wholesale slaughter that followed when Earth asked for time to respond. She showed them communication intercepts, battle logs, medical records. She showed them everything, holding nothing back. The Zarkeen officers sat in silence, processing what they were seeing. Finally, Darnax spoke. This was not a military operation. This was mass murder. Yes, Chen said simply. Our government told us Earth was a threat. That you were developing weapons that could destabilize the region. That the attack was preventative. Chen shook her head. We had no weapons that could threaten the Dominion. We had barely left our own solar system. We were exploring, learning, hoping to make peaceful contact with other species. Instead, we found beings who decided we needed to be crushed before we could become competitors. Darnax looked at his fellow officers. What do you want from us? I want you to go back to Kraz Thor and tell your people the truth. Let them decide for themselves whether protecting council members Thexnar and Vril is worth defending. The choice is yours to make. Number 4. Number 4. The officers returned to Kraz Thor. Chen did not know what they would do, but she had planted a seed. Over the next week, that seed grew. Discontent spread through the garrison. Soldiers who had believed they were defending the Dominion against aggressors now questioned whether they were actually protecting war criminals. Officers who had followed orders without question began to wonder whether those orders had been just. Military Governor Zelmach tried to suppress the dissent. He arrested several officers suspected of disloyalty. He executed a civilian who spoke too openly about questioning the council. He declared martial law and restricted all communications. But it was too late. The truth was out, and truth was a weapon more powerful than any gun. On day 34 of the siege, Chen received another encrypted message. This one was from a larger group, calling themselves the Justice Movement. They represented military and civilian leaders who believed the council members should be surrendered. "We are prepared to act," the message said. "But we need assurance that humanity will not destroy Kraz Thor after we surrender the council members. Can you guarantee the safety of our world?" Chen considered the question carefully. She knew that how she answered would determine not just the outcome of this siege, but humanity's reputation in the galaxy for generations to come. "You have my word," she replied. "Surrender council members Thexnar and Vril OK, and the human fleet will withdraw immediately. We will not occupy your world. We will not demand reparations. We seek justice, not conquest. Help us achieve that justice, and this ends peacefully." The response came 2 days later. "We are moving against the governor's forces. Stand ready." What followed was a coup. The Justice Movement, led by Colonel Darnax and supported by significant portions of the military, moved against Governor Zelmach and the loyalist forces. The fighting was brief but intense. The governor and his supporters had superior defensive positions, but they were outnumbered. Council members Thexnar and Vril OK tried to flee in a private ship, but the rebels had taken control of the orbital defenses. The ship was disabled and forced to return to the surface. After 47 days of siege, Kraz Thor's defenses fell without a single shot fired by human forces. The Justice Movement transmitted a message to Chen. "General Chen, this is Colonel Darnax. We have secured council members Thexnar and Vril OK. We are prepared to turn them over to your custody. We request that you keep your word and leave our world in peace." Chen ordered the fleet to stand down from combat readiness. She personally led a landing party to Kraz Thor's surface, accompanied by a small honor guard. They met with Colonel Darnax in the central plaza of the planet's capital city. Thousands of Zarkeen watched as the two council members were brought forward in restraints. Thexnar and Vril OK both looked defiant, their reptilian features set in expressions of contempt. "This is a betrayal," Thexnar hissed. "You hand us over to these primitives? You dishonor the Dominion." "That's..." Colonel Darnax stepped forward. "No, council member. You dishonored the Dominion when you ordered the massacre of billions. You dishonored us when you hid behind our soldiers instead of facing justice. The humans are right. You are criminals, and criminals must face consequences." Chen accepted custody of the two council members. She turned to address the assembled crowd. Her words translated for all to hear. "People of Kraz Thor, today you have shown the galaxy something important. You have shown that justice matters more than loyalty to corrupt leaders. You have shown that truth can overcome propaganda. You have shown courage in the face of difficult choices." She gestured to the two captured council members. "These beings ordered the deaths of 4 billion humans. They did it casually, as if our lives meant nothing. But because of your actions today, they will face trial. They will answer for what they did. And the galaxy will see that no one is above justice." Chen paused. "As promised, the human fleet will now withdraw. We came for these 2 individuals, and you have given them to us. We have no quarrel with your people. We hope that in the future, when humanity and the Zarkeen Dominion meet again, it will be as equals, not as enemies." The human landing party returned to their ships, bringing the 2 council members with them. True to her word, Chen ordered the fleet to leave the system immediately. As the Defiance jumped into faster-than-light travel, Commander Williams approached Chen. "General, we've received a message from Earth. The Council wants to know when you're returning home." Chen looked at the datapad showing the locations of the 7 captured Council members and the 2 who had died. 9 out of 12. 3 still remained at large, but intelligence suggested they were in hiding, no longer protected by military forces or allied governments. "Tell them we'll be home in 6 months. We have a few more stops to make. But the hard part is done." Over the next 5 months, humanity tracked down the final 3 Council members. One was found hiding on a remote mining colony. Another surrendered voluntarily, tired of running. The final one was located on a smuggler's ship and captured after a brief chase. All 12 Council members who had authorized the attack on Earth were now in human custody. The hunt was over. Chen ordered the fleet to return home. The journey took several weeks, traveling back across the space they had crossed during their long pursuit. As they approached Earth, Chen stood on the bridge, watching her homeworld grow larger on the screen. The planet still bore scars from the invasion, but cities were being rebuilt. The atmosphere was slowly healing. Life continued, as it always did. Humanity had hunted across the galaxy, fought against superior numbers, besieged an impregnable fortress, and achieved their goal without losing themselves in the process. They had proven that justice could be pursued without becoming the very thing they opposed. The Defiance entered orbit around Earth to a hero's welcome. But Chen felt no triumph, only relief. The war was over. The hunt was complete. Now came the final act, bringing the Council members to trial before the entire galaxy. The Galactic Concordat Assembly Hall was the largest diplomatic space in known civilization. It could hold representatives from 300 species, each in environments suited to their biology. The hall had witnessed treaties that ended centuries of war, agreements that opened new trade routes, and declarations that changed the balance of power across thousands of light years. It had never witnessed anything like this. General Sarah Chen walked through the main entrance, flanked by human security personnel. Behind her, in specially designed containment units that maintained security while allowing visibility, came the 12 Zarkeen Council members. The beings who had ordered the deaths of 4 billion humans were being brought to trial before the entire galaxy. 28 months had passed since the invasion of Earth. 16 months since humanity began Operation Reckoning. The hunt was over. Now came the judgment. Chen took her position at the human delegation station. Around her, hundreds of species watched through various visual and sensory organs. Some were humanoid, walking on 2 legs with recognizable features. Others were so alien that Chen still struggled to understand their body language. But all of them were focused on this moment. The presiding arbiter, a being from the ancient Velastran species, called the session to order. The Velastrans were one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, neutral in most conflicts, respected for their fairness. The arbiter's translation came through as a deep, resonant voice. "This assembly recognizes the representative of Earth. General Sarah Chen, you have brought charges of genocide and crimes against sentient life, against 12 members of the Zarkeen Dominion High Council. This is an extraordinary action. The Concordat does not typically involve itself in military conflicts between species. Why should we hear this case?" Chen stood. She had prepared for this moment for months. Everything humanity had done, every battle fought, every diplomatic bridge burned, had led to this. "Honored Arbiter, members of the Assembly, I stand before you not to ask for sympathy, but to present facts. 28 months ago, the Zarkeen Dominion launched an unprovoked attack on Earth. They appeared in our skies without warning. They demanded immediate surrender. When we asked for time to consider, they destroyed a city of 4 million people as a demonstration. When we still did not surrender instantly, they proceeded to exterminate 4 billion humans in 72 hours. She activated a holographic display. Images appeared above the assembly floor. Earth before the invasion. Blue oceans, green continents, cities glowing with light. Then Earth after. Gray skies, radioactive craters, ruins where those cities had been. The Zarkeen leadership has claimed this was a military operation. They have suggested Earth was a threat. Let me show you what kind of threat we posed. New images appeared. Human space exploration vessels. Small and primitive compared to galactic standards. Research stations studying solar dynamics. Colony ships that were barely faster than light. Nothing that could threaten an empire spanning hundreds of worlds. We were explorers. Scientists. Dreamers. We had barely left our home system. We had never encountered another intelligent species. We had no weapons capable of threatening the Dominion. We were no threat to anyone. The Zarkeen Defense Council, a hired advocate from the Morian species, stood. The Dominion exercised its sovereign right to protect its interests. Earth was developing technology at an unprecedented rate. Preventative action is recognized under established precedent. End quote. Chen had expected this argument. Preventative action against a non-existent threat is simply murder with planning. But let us examine this claim of rapid technological advancement. She brought up comparative data. This chart shows the technological development of Earth compared to other species at similar stages. Yes, we advanced quickly, but our advancement was purely civilian. Better computers, faster ships, more efficient energy systems, nothing military, nothing that could harm the Dominion. The Arbiter studied the data. General Chen, the Concordat recognizes that conflicts occur between species. Resources are disputed. Territory is contested. Why is this case different from countless other conflicts throughout galactic history? This was the critical moment. Chen took a breath, because this was not a conflict. A conflict implies both sides have a reason to fight. We had no conflict with the Zarkeen. We did not know they existed until they appeared to destroy us. This was not war. It was extermination, and it was ordered for one reason: to remind younger species not to reach too high. She activated another recording. This was the testimony of Counselor Vrextal, recorded during his interrogation. His voice filled the chamber. The humans were advancing too quickly. In another century, they might have been our equals. Better to crush them now, while they were still weak. Make them an example. Remind the younger species what happens when they forget their place. The chamber erupted with noise. Representatives from dozens of species spoke at once, their translations overlapping into chaos. The Arbiter called for order, but the disruption continued for several minutes. When quiet finally returned, the Arbiter addressed the assembly. We have all heard this testimony before, as humanity has broadcast it across the galaxy. But hearing it again in this context raises difficult questions. Was the attack on Earth truly defensive, or was it something else? The Zarkeen Defense Council tried to regain ground. Even if we accept that the attack was aggressive rather than defensive, this does not justify humanity's response. They have violated numerous treaties. They attacked neutral stations. They pursued sovereign officials across the galaxy. They conducted warfare in ways that break every convention of civilized conflict. Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Civilized conflict. Let me explain something about humanity to this assembly. We are new to galactic politics. We did not grow up with your rules and conventions. So when the Zarkeen attacked us, we did not know that we were supposed to surrender gracefully. We did not know that genocide was an accepted tool of diplomacy among the civilized species. We did not know our place. She walked to the center of the floor, addressing not just the Arbiter but every species present. You want to know why humanity pursued this course? Why we hunted across the galaxy? Why we refused to follow your rules? I'll tell you. Because your rules are designed to protect the strong and keep the weak in their place. Your rules say that a powerful species can destroy a younger one and face no real consequences. Your rules say that as long as you follow certain formalities, murder on a massive scale is acceptable. The chamber was silent now. Every being present was listening. Humanity rejects those rules. We reject a galaxy where might makes right. We reject a civilization where the old powers can crush the young to maintain their dominance. And most importantly, we reject the idea that the deaths of 4 billion humans should be dismissed as just another conflict. The Morian Defense Council objected. The human representative is making speeches, not presenting evidence. The Dominion's actions were harsh, yes, but they were within the established parameters of power projection. This is how the galaxy has operated for millennia. Then the galaxy has been wrong for millennia, Chen shot back. And if this assembly refuses to recognize that, then humanity will continue to operate outside your system. We will be the ones who remind the powerful that actions have consequences. The Arbiter raised a hand, calling for calm. General Chen, threats do not serve your cause. Please present your formal case. Chen nodded and returned to her station. For the next 6 hours, she walked the assembly through the evidence. Communication logs showing the High Council meeting where the attack was authorized. Military records proving the attack was planned months in advance. Casualty reports detailing the 4 billion deaths. Medical records of survivors suffering from radiation poisoning. But most powerfully, she presented testimony from Zarkeen military officers who had participated in the attack. Many of them had been captured during various battles. Under questioning, they had described their orders and their actions. One officer's testimony was particularly damning. We were told it would be quick. The humans would see our power and surrender. When they didn't, we were ordered to continue bombardment of population centers until they did. I followed my orders. I killed millions. I thought I was serving the Dominion. Now I understand I was serving a government that values power over justice. As the evidence mounted, the mood in the chamber shifted. Representatives who had been skeptical began to look troubled. Species that had themselves suffered demonstrations from more powerful neighbors began to speak up, sharing their own experiences. The Arbiter called for a recess. The assembly would reconvene the next day for closing arguments. That night, Chen met with the human diplomatic team. Ambassador Williams, who had been coordinating Earth's outreach to other species, had news. General, we're receiving communications from 17 species. They want to propose a resolution condemning aggressive acts against developing civilizations. They're calling it the Earth Protocols. If it passes, what the Zarkeen did to us would be formally declared a crime under galactic law. Chen felt a surge of hope. Would it be enforceable? Would it be enforceable? That's the difficult part. The Concordat has limited enforcement power, but if enough species agree to the protocols, it creates a new norm. Species that violate it would face diplomatic isolation, trade sanctions, and potential military action from a coalition. So we wouldn't change the past, but we might prevent future Earths. Exactly. The next day, the assembly reconvened for closing arguments. The Morian Defense Council made a final attempt to defend the council members. Yes, the attack on Earth was severe. Yes, the casualties were high, but the Dominion acted according to the understanding of power that has governed this galaxy for thousands of years. To punish these council members is to reject the entire system that has maintained galactic order. It would be chaos. Chen stood for her final statement. She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes and sensory organs as she could. Members of the assembly, you face a choice today. You can maintain the old order, where the strong dominate the weak, and might makes right. You can declare that what happened to Earth was unfortunate but acceptable. You can send humanity home with these council members and tell us to follow your rules in the future. She paused. Or you can recognize that the old order failed. It failed 4 billion humans who died for no reason other than existing and growing. It failed every species that has been crushed under the boot of a more powerful neighbor. It failed the very ideals that this Concordat claims to represent. Chen walked to where the 12 Zarkeen council members sat in their containment units. She looked at each one. These beings decided that human lives were worth less than their political convenience. They decided that our hopes and dreams were threats to be eliminated. They decided that a young species reaching for the stars needed to be taught a lesson. They were wrong. And if this assembly refuses to hold them accountable, then you are complicit in their crime. She returned to her station. I have presented evidence of genocide. I have shown premeditation. I have demonstrated that there was no justification for the attack. The only question remaining is whether this assembly has the courage to declare that such actions are wrong, regardless of who commits them or how powerful they are. Chen sat down. The chamber was silent for a long moment. The arbiter spoke. The assembly will now deliberate. Representatives may submit their judgments through secure channels. We will announce the verdict within 2 rotations. Those 2 rotations were the longest 48 hours of Chen's life. She waited in the human delegation's quarters, reviewing everything that had happened, wondering if she had done enough. When the assembly reconvened, the arbiter's first words sent relief flooding through her. After careful consideration of the evidence and testimony, the Galactic Concordate Assembly has reached a verdict. The 12 members of the Zarkeen High Council are found guilty of crimes against sentient life. The attack on Earth is declared an act of genocide, undertaken without justification or legal authority. The Zarkeen delegation erupted in protest, but the arbiter continued. Furthermore, the Assembly adopts the Earth Protocols, establishing new standards for interaction between species at different technological levels. Unprovoked attacks on developing civilizations are declared crimes under concordate law. Species that violate these protocols will face coordinated sanctions and potential military intervention. The arbiter turned to Chen. General Chen, humanity has requested that the convicted council members serve their sentences on Earth, participating in rebuilding efforts. This is an unusual request, but given the extraordinary nature of this case, the Assembly approves. The 12 council members will be remanded to human custody for a period of no less than 30 standard years. Chen stood and bowed. The human delegation thanks the Assembly for its wisdom and courage. As the session ended and representatives began to leave, dozens of species approached the human delegation. Some offered congratulations. Others expressed support for the Earth Protocols. A few quietly admitted that they had suffered similar attacks in their own histories and were glad to see the practice finally condemned. But Chen knew this was not really about the verdict or the protocols. It was about precedent. Humanity had shown the galaxy that the old rules could be challenged, that justice could be pursued even against overwhelming odds, that a young species could stand up to ancient powers and win. 3 weeks later, Chen stood on Earth, at the memorial wall bearing 4 billion names. The 12 Zarkeen Council members stood with her, now wearing work clothes instead of their formal robes. They were beginning their 30 years of service, required to help rebuild what they had destroyed. Chen found her daughter's name on the wall. She placed her hand on it, as she had many times before. A young reporter approached, recording the moment. General Chen, was it worth it? All the battles, all the political fights, all the risks? Was it worth it for revenge? Chen turned to face the camera. She wanted her words to be recorded, to be remembered. It was never revenge. Revenge is personal. Revenge is about making yourself feel better by hurting those who hurt you. What we did was not revenge. It was justice. Justice says that actions have consequences. Justice says that power does not excuse cruelty. Justice says that 4 billion lives matter, regardless of how weak or young their species might be. She looked up at the sky, where new space stations were being constructed, where exploration vessels were being prepared for launch. We went across the galaxy to make a promise that no one would ever again think humanity was easy prey. A promise that our children could look at the stars and see hope, not fear. A promise that the deaths of our people would mean something, would change something, would make the galaxy a little bit better. The reporter asked one more question. What's next for humanity? Chen smiled, and this time, it was genuine. We go back to dreaming, We go back to exploring. We go back to being the species we were before the invasion, the ones who looked at the stars with wonder. But we do it with the knowledge that we can protect ourselves, that we can stand with any species in the galaxy as equals. She turned to walk away, then paused, and looked back at the camera one final time. The Zarkeen attacked Earth because they thought we needed to learn our place in the universe. They were right about one thing. We did need to learn our place. We learned that our place is wherever we choose to make it. We learned that humanity bows to no one. We learned that when you push us, we push back harder. And most importantly, we learned that we can become stronger without becoming monsters. Chen walked away from the memorial, past the council members who would spend decades atoning for their crime, toward the transport that would take her to the new United Earth Command headquarters. There was work to be done, ships to build, treaties to negotiate, exploration missions to plan. The war was over. The hunt was complete. The trial was finished. But humanity's story was just beginning. Above Earth, in the orbital shipyards, the latest vessel was taking shape. It was not a warship, but an exploration vessel designed to travel to the far reaches of the galaxy. Its name, painted proudly across the hull, was visible even from the ground: UES New Dawn. Because that was what humanity had won through all the pain and struggle, not just justice for the past, but hope for the future. A future where Earth stood among the stars not as a victim or a conqueror, but as a species that had faced the darkness and emerged still believing in the light. The galaxy had tried to teach humanity its place. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson it would not soon forget: that justice, when pursued with unwavering determination, could move mountains. That a species willing to stand for its principles could change the rules that governed civilization itself. That the newest voice in the galactic chorus could sing a song that would echo for generations. General Sarah Chen looked up at the new dawn taking shape in orbit and allowed herself, for the first time in nearly 2 years, to feel something other than grim determination. She felt hope. And in a galaxy that had grown cynical over millennia, hope was perhaps the most revolutionary thing humanity could offer.
Usar o mesmo CPF?
Você vai passar tudo.
Ache o próximo item pelo leitor. Coloque o produto na caixa.
O pessoal que deve achar que eu sou esquizofrênica.
Continue sua compra.
Falando com o telefone, eu finjo que eu tô numa chamada de vídeo.
Por favor, aguarde pela operadora.
Não sei, gente, aqui pra me ajudar. Ué, não achou? Gente, agora eu vou ter que chamar um funcionário. Não, a carne não foi essa. Tem que esperar um funcionário. Deixa eu ver se eu acho algum por aí.
Libera pra ela aqui. Eu já dei. Tá, obrigada.
É a carne, não passou.
É o código.
Obrigada, viu? Deu certo, gente. Tamo junto. Gente do céu, o caixa bloqueou de novo. Vamos passar. Vou me matar. Nossa, que ódio.
Oi?
Bloqueou que pode ter.
Comida. Chamou de
Obrigada, viu? Não, velho, é foda aqui, é complicado. Foi. Vamos pagar.
A indicação pelo leitor dos
Não funciona, gente. Caixa automático não funciona. 150, tá? Vamos embora. Ah, não vou correr. Eu ia correr, mas eu não vou correr não, porque depois eu acho que eu tô fazendo merda. Meu carro tá ali ainda. Graças a Deus. E o cara vai mexer comigo, ó. Nossa, que milagre. Mexeu não. Agora corre porque tá cheio de mendigo. Ai, o cara estacionou perto, velho, de mim, desgraçado. Olha isso aqui, cara. Foda-se. O cara tá vindo na minha direção. Veio não, deu meia volta. Tranca o carro. Porra. Mano, eu acho que esse bagulho não quer mais viver. Vamos ver se vai segurar os 6 hoje. Ai, calor do caralho. Queima o pneu. A porra do pneu já tá rasgado, cara. Eu sei que queima pneu. Desgraçado. Ai, ai. Vamos embora. Vou ligar o ar-condicionado, né, gente? Tá podendo, né? Posso ir? Não, não posso, porque essa porra desse carro vai vir em alta velocidade. Não chega perto, eu vou te atropelar. Vamos, 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 vamos. Bora, 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 porra. Ah, não adiantou porra nenhuma, né? O sinal tá fechado. Desgraça. Ué, o carro tá buzinando. O sinal tá fechado, meu filho. O que você quer que eu faça? Ah, lá vem o retardado. Puta que pariu. Ali, velho, que porra é aquela que tá fazendo? Velho, nossa, que moleque. Filho da puta do caralho, velho. Ah, não, não. Fecha não, não fecha não. Ai, ai. É o centro de Divinópolis.